The dead corridor was a strip of empty space that nobody wanted. It sat between two great powers, the Crimson Empire and the Nova Collective, like a scar across the galaxy. For 300 years, both sides had ignored it. They had scanned it many times and found nothing but rocks, dust, and the broken pieces of ships from wars long forgotten. Commander Al of the Crimson Destroyer Fang of Victory was bored. His patrol route took him along the edge of the dead corridor, and he had made this journey 100 times before. Nothing ever happened here. His crew moved slowly through their duties, and even the ship's sensors seemed tired of looking at empty space. Then something changed. A large object drifted among the asteroids. It looked like wreckage at first, covered in dust and pitted by centuries of micro-impacts. Al's second officer marked it as debris and prepared to move on, but something made the commander pause. The shape was too regular, too purposeful. "Scan it again," he ordered. The second scan changed everything. Beneath the dust and damage, the object had a real hull made of metals that the computer could not identify, and it was huge, nearly 4 kilometers long, far bigger than any Crimson warship ever built. Before Al could order a retreat, the object woke up. Lights flickered across its surface. The dust fell away as ancient systems powered on for the first time in 3 centuries. What emerged was not wreckage. It was a warship of terrifying size and brutal design. Weapons that Al had never seen before turned toward his ship like the eyes of a predator spotting prey. A signal burst from the awakened vessel. It was scratchy and broken, but the translation software caught every word. "This is the UEN Erebus, Leviathan-class dreadnought of the United Earth Navy. Crew status, hibernation protocol active. Threat detected. Initiating defensive posture." Al screamed the order to retreat. His helmsman tried to turn the ship. The engines roared to full power. It was not enough. The Erebus fired. Beams of energy that burned blue-white crossed the distance between the ships in less than a heartbeat. The Fang of Victory's shields flashed once, twice, and then died. The hull melted. The engines exploded. In 16 seconds, a Crimson destroyer that had served the Empire for 40 years became a cloud of expanding gas and twisted metal. Al lived just long enough to send a distress signal. His last sight was fire. Deep within the Erebus, alarms rang through corridors that had been silent for 300 years. Emergency lights painted everything in red and amber. Machines that had waited patiently through centuries of darkness hummed back to life. In the hibernation bay, 4,200 pods began the wake-up sequence. The process was slow and careful, designed to bring frozen bodies back to life without damage. Captain was among the first to open her eyes. She felt terrible, her muscles ached, her throat was dry, her head pounded with the worst headache she had ever experienced. But training took over. She pulled herself from the pod and checked her condition. Everything worked. She was alive. "Oracle," she called out, her voice rough. "Status report." The ship's artificial intelligence responded immediately. Its voice was calm and clear, unchanged by centuries of dormancy. "Captain, current date unknown. Navigation data corrupted. We are in an uncharted region of space. I detected an approaching vessel and initiated defensive protocols. The vessel has been destroyed." Steadied herself against the wall. Other pods were opening around her. Her crew was waking up, confused and scared but alive. "What kind of vessel?" she asked. "Unknown design, unknown species. The ship was armed and approached in an aggressive formation. I made the decision to fire first." Closed her eyes. They had been running from one war and had apparently woken up in the middle of another. The United Earth Navy had built the Erebus during humanity's darkest hour. An alien enemy had appeared from nowhere and attacked without warning or mercy. Colony after colony fell. Earth itself came under siege. In desperation, humanity built the Leviathan-class dreadnoughts. Ships designed to operate alone, behind enemy lines, causing as much damage as possible before being destroyed. The Erebus had done her job well. She had destroyed enemy supply lines, ambushed their fleets, and burned their staging areas. But in the final battle, she had taken terrible damage. With no hope of reaching friendly space, Captain had ordered the emergency protocol. The crew would sleep, the ship would drift, and maybe someday rescue would come. Rescue never came. Instead, 3 centuries passed, and the Erebus woke up to find herself surrounded by strangers. Chief Engineer was the next senior officer to reach the bridge. He was a big man with steady hands and a mind that could solve any mechanical problem. Right now, that mind was racing through damage reports and system checks. Ship is at 62% capacity, he reported. Weapons are online. Engines are functional. We lost some secondary systems during the drift, but nothing critical. She's tough, Captain. She held together. Nodded, and the crew. 4,187 confirmed alive. 13 pods failed during hibernation. We lost them. 13 people who would never wake up. 13 people who had trusted their captain to bring them home. Pushed the grief aside. She would mourn later. Right now, she needed to keep everyone else alive. The sensors showed more ships coming. Many more. Whatever civilization on the vessel they had destroyed was responding in force. Oracle, can we run? Negative. Enemy vessels will intercept before we can reach safe distance. I recommend we fight. Looked at the tactical display. 20 ships were approaching, each one smaller than the Erebus but still dangerous. She did not know their weapons. She did not know their tactics. She did not know anything about them except that they would probably want revenge for the ship she had just killed. But the Erebus was a leviathan. She had been built to fight against impossible odds, and her captain had not survived 2 years of war only to die in unknown space. All hands battle stations, announced through the ship's communication system. This is Captain. I know you are confused. I know you are scared. So am I, but we are soldiers of the United Earth Navy and we have a job to do. We survive. We adapt. We overcome. That is what humans do. She sat in her command chair and watched the enemy fleet grow closer. Let's show these aliens what a human warship can do. The Erebus turned toward the approaching ships, and her weapons began to charge. Whatever happened next, the galaxy would remember this day. The day humanity returned from the dead. The battle lasted 43 minutes. When it ended, 12 Crimson warships drifted dead in space, and 8 more were running away as fast as their engines could carry them. The Erebus had taken damage, but she was still fighting, still alive. Captain watched the retreating ships on her display and felt no joy, only exhaustion. Her crew had performed perfectly, fighting with the skill and discipline that the United Earth Navy had drilled into them. But they were alone in hostile space, and this was only the beginning. News of the battle reached the Crimson Imperial Court within hours. High Admiral N studied the reports with growing alarm. The unknown vessel had destroyed Commander Al's ship in seconds. It had then engaged an entire response fleet and won. The weapons it used operated on principles that his scientists could not explain. The armor it carried shrugged off attacks that should have torn it apart. "What is this thing?" the Emperor demanded. "We do not know, Majesty," N admitted. "The signal it broadcast called itself a human warship. We have no records of any species by that name." The Emperor's advisors argued for hours. Some wanted to send a larger fleet. Others suggested negotiation. A few even proposed retreat, abandoning the dead corridor entirely. In the end, the Emperor chose aggression. He ordered N to assemble the largest battle group the Empire could spare. The unknown ship would be captured or destroyed. There would be no other options. Far across the galaxy, the Nova Collective was having a similar conversation. Supreme Commander had spies everywhere, including inside the Crimson Court. She learned about the mysterious warship almost as quickly as the Emperor did. and where the Crimson saw a threat, saw opportunity. The Nova Collective had been fighting the Crimson Empire for centuries. The war was cold now, fought through proxies and economic pressure rather than open battle. But it was still a war, and any advantage could tip the balance. A ship with unknown weapons and impossible capabilities could be that advantage. "We must capture it before the Crimson do," told her council. "Send our fastest ships, offer friendship first, but be prepared to take it by force if necessary." Both empires mobilized. Hundreds of ships began moving toward the dead corridor. And in the middle of it all, the Erebus drifted quietly, her crew trying to understand what had happened to the universe while they slept. Oracle had been working constantly since the battle ended. The artificial intelligence analyzed every piece of data it could gather from the destroyed Crimson ships. It studied their technology, their communication protocols, their language. Within days, it could translate their words and understand their basic social structure. The picture it painted was troubling. "We are located between two major powers," Oracle reported to the senior staff. "The Crimson Empire and the Nova Collective. Both are aggressive and expansionist. Both have been at war with each other, directly or indirectly, for over 400 years. Neither appears to have any knowledge of humanity." The chief engineer frowned. "How is that possible? Even if Earth lost the war, someone should remember us." "I have considered that question," Oracle replied. "The most likely explanation is that humanity was completely destroyed. Our enemies may have erased all traces of our existence from the galaxy." Silence filled the room. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Complete destruction, total erasure. The crew of the Erebus might be the last humans left alive. Captain broke the silence. "We don't know that for certain. Our navigation data is corrupted. We don't even know where Earth is from here. Until we find proof, we assume nothing." She stood and looked at each of her officers in turn. "Our situation is dangerous but not hopeless. The Erebus was designed to operate alone for years. We can manufacture our own ammunition. We can grow our own food. We can repair almost any damage. We are a self-sufficient civilization in the body of a warship." Lieutenant Commander Sarah, the ship's counselor, raised a concern. "The crew is scared, Captain. Many of them had families back on Earth. They need hope." "Then we give them hope," replied. "We give them purpose. Our mission now is survival. We find out what happened to humanity. We find a way home. And we do not let these alien empires destroy us." She turned to her tactical officer. "Lieutenant, what do we know about enemy fleet movements?" Pulled up a display showing the space around them. Red dots and blue dots were converging on their position from two different directions. "Both empires are sending forces, Captain. The Crimson Fleet will arrive in approximately 6 days. The Nova Fleet in 8. If they work together, we cannot win a direct engagement." Studied the display. The tactical situation was bad but not impossible. She had fought against worse odds before. "Then we don't fight directly. Oracle, show me the terrain. Asteroid fields, nebulae, anything we can use." The display changed to show the surrounding space in detail. The dead corridor was called dead for a reason. It was full of debris, radiation zones, and unstable gravity wells. Most ships avoided it entirely. But the Erebus was not most ships. "We use their caution against them," decided. "They don't know what we can do. They don't know our capabilities. We make them afraid to chase us. We hit them when they don't expect it and disappear before they can respond." Over the next 6 days, the Erebus became a ghost. She moved through the dead corridor like a predator, using the dangerous terrain to hide her movements. When the Crimson Fleet arrived, they found empty space. Their scouts pushed forward, searching for the human ship. They found gravity mines instead. The Erebus had seeded the approaches with weapons designed to tear ships apart. 3 scouts died before the fleet stopped advancing. High Admiral N ordered caution, and caution meant slowness. When the Nova fleet arrived, they tried a different approach. They spread out, covering more area, hopping to trap the Erebus between multiple forces. But humans had invented something that neither empire had ever encountered. Marines. 200 soldiers in powered armor launched from the Erebus in small shuttles. They crossed the gap between ships in perfect silence, their suits designed for exactly this kind of operation. They landed on the Nova flagship, cut through the hull, and stormed inside. The Nova crew had never faced boarding action before. Their ships were not designed to repel invaders. Within an hour, the Marines controlled the flagship's engineering section and had disabled its weapons. Captain sent a simple message: "Leave or we take more of your ships." The Nova retreated, so did the Crimson, and across two empires, military commanders studied the reports with fear in their hearts. This human ship was not just powerful, it was unpredictable. It fought in ways they had never imagined. The question spread through war councils and strategy meetings. What exactly were humans, and why had the galaxy never seen them before? Asked herself the same question every night. Somewhere out there, Earth was waiting, or its grave was waiting. Either way, she would find it, and nothing in this galaxy was going to stop her. 3 months passed since the Erebus had awakened. In that time, the human warship had become the most feared thing in known space. Every attack against her had failed. Every trap had been avoided. Every fleet that came to destroy her went home with fewer ships than it started with. The Crimson Empire and the Nova Collective hated each other. They had fought for centuries, killed millions of each other's people, and destroyed countless worlds in their endless war. But fear makes strange allies. After 3 months of failure, the two empires did something that had never happened in their history. They agreed to work together. High Admiral N met Supreme Commander at a neutral station. Neither trusted the other. Both brought guards and weapons and escape plans, but they sat across from each other and talked, because the alternative was watching the human ship destroy them one piece at a time. "We send everything," N proposed. "Every ship we can spare. We surround the dead corridor completely. Nothing gets in or out. Then we close the circle until we crush them." Nodded slowly. "And after, when the human ship is destroyed, what happens to our alliance?" "It ends," N said simply. "We return to our war, but we return alive." They shook hands, or the equivalent gesture for their species. 40 warships from the Crimson Empire and 35 from the Nova Collective began moving toward the dead corridor. It was the largest combined fleet either side had assembled in living memory. Aboard the Erebus, Oracle detected the gathering storm. 75 warships confirmed, the AI reported. Both empires are cooperating. They will reach optimal encirclement positions in 12 days. Captain studied the tactical display in silence. Around her, the bridge crew worked at their stations, but she could feel their fear. This was different from before. This was two entire civilizations deciding that the Erebus had to die. "Can we break through?" she asked. "Possibly, but we would sustain significant damage and they would pursue. Running is not a long-term solution." Leaned back in her chair and thought. The empires were afraid of her. That was why they had joined forces. Fear was a weapon, but it was also a weakness. Afraid people made mistakes. Afraid people wanted the fear to stop. "Open a channel," she said finally. "Broadcast to both fleets. I want to talk." Her officers stared at her. Lieutenant found her voice first. "Captain, they want to destroy us. Why would they negotiate?" "Because they're afraid," replied. "And afraid people will listen to any voice that offers them a way out. We're going to give them one." The message went out across all frequencies, kept it simple. She invited one representative from each empire to meet with her, unarmed, in neutral space. She promised safe passage and guaranteed that no weapons would be fired during the meeting. She gave them 3 days to decide. The empires argued. Some commanders wanted to ignore the offer and attack immediately. Others pointed out that every direct attack had failed. In the end, curiosity won. They needed to understand their enemy. A meeting would give them information, even if it gave them nothing else. High Admiral N came himself, too proud to send a subordinate. Supreme Commander joined him, too smart to miss an opportunity. Their shuttles docked with the Erebus at the same time, each one watching the other for signs of betrayal. What they found inside surprised them. The human ship was clean and orderly. The corridors were well lit. The crew members they passed looked healthy and disciplined. This was not a desperate band of survivors clinging to a dying vessel. This was a functional military operation. Captain met them in a conference room. She was smaller than both aliens had expected. Her species was shorter than theirs, softer looking, without natural weapons or armor. And yet she stood before them without fear, her eyes steady and calm. "Thank you for coming," she said. "Please sit." N remained standing. "We did not come to exchange pleasantries, human. We came to hear your surrender terms." Almost smiled. "I am not surrendering, Admiral. I am offering something much more valuable, peace." She activated a display showing a map of the galaxy. Two vast territories marked in red and blue dominated the image. Between them, like a thin scar, lay the dead corridor. "Your empires have been fighting for 400 years, continued. "You have killed each other by the billions. You have destroyed worlds. And yet neither of you has won. Neither of you can win. The war will continue until both sides collapse from exhaustion." Spoke for the first time. "You presume to lecture us on our own history." "I presume nothing, I observe, and I offer an alternative," highlighted the dead corridor on the map. "My ship has no interest in your territory, your resources, or your politics. We are looking for something else entirely. Our people, we need information." She laid out her terms clearly. Full access to both empires' historical archives. Freedom to travel through their space without interference. Any data either power had about humanities or former colonies. In exchange, the Erebus would stop attacking both empires. She would share certain technologies, medical advances, and agricultural improvements, things that would help both civilizations without threatening them. "You expect us to trust you," N demanded. "No," admitted. "I expect you to fear me enough to try. Every fleet you have sent against us has failed. Every trap has cost you ships. You could send 100 ships and we would kill half of them before you killed us. Is that victory worth the cost?" The two alien commanders looked at each other. Neither wanted to admit weakness, but both knew she was right. The human ship was too dangerous to destroy easily, and the losses would cripple whoever fought her. "We will consider your terms," said carefully. "Consider quickly," replied. "My patience has limits." The meeting ended. The alien shuttles departed, and aboard their respective flagships, both N and began thinking the same thought. The human wanted information about her. That meant Earth was valuable to her, and anything valuable could be used as leverage. The alliance against the Erebus quietly fell apart. Instead of working together, both empires began racing to find Earth first. Whoever controlled that information would control the human ship, or so they believed. What neither empire knew was that Oracle had been working on the corrupted navigation data since the day they woke up. The AI had made progress. Slow progress, but progress. The location of Earth was becoming clearer every day. Captain was not negotiating from desperation. She was buying time, and when she found Earth, she would need no one's permission to go home. Every night she looked at the stars through her cabin window and wondered what she would find there. A living world, maybe even other survivors. Or a grave, a monument to everything humanity had lost. Either way, she would know soon. And then the galaxy would learn what humans did when they had nothing left to lose. 6 months after awakening, Oracle completed the reconstruction of the navigation data. The path to Earth was finally clear. Captain ordered the Erebus to maximum speed, and the great warship turned toward home. The journey took 3 weeks, 3 weeks of tension, hope, and fear. The crew barely slept. They gathered in observation lounges and mess halls, talking about what they would find. Some imagined Earth rebuilt, humanity thriving under new leadership. Others feared the worst but kept their fears quiet. Everyone wanted to believe. Spent most of those weeks alone on the bridge, watching the stars pass. She had led these people for years, through war and hibernation and battles against alien empires. She had promised them she would bring them home. Soon she would learn if that promise meant anything. The Erebus dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. For a moment, everything was quiet. The sensors scanned outward, searching for signals, for ships, for any sign of human life. They found nothing, only silence. Earth appeared on the main display as they moved closer. It was beautiful, heartbreakingly beautiful. Blue oceans and green continents, white clouds swirling across the surface. From a distance, it looked exactly as remembered. But then the details became clear. Vast circular scars marked the surface. Impact craters from orbital bombardment, dozens of them, each one large enough to destroy a major city. The continents showed the dark patches of old fires that had burned for years. There were no lights on the night side, no communication signals, no orbital stations. Earth was dead. Humanity's cradle had become humanity's grave. "Scan for survivors," ordered, her voice steady despite the pain in her chest. Oracle searched. The AI examined every frequency, every possible signal source, every hidden corner of the system. Mars had been devastated, its domed cities shattered and exposed to the thin atmosphere. Luna was broken, massive chunks missing from its surface where weapons had struck. The asteroid colonies were silent tombs, their populations long dead. No human life signs detected anywhere in the system, Oracle reported. Based on the decay patterns of the bombardment sites, the attack occurred approximately 280 years ago, 20 years after we entered hibernation. 20 years. They had slept through the end of their species by 20 years. If they had stayed awake, if they had found a way home sooner, maybe they could have helped. Maybe they could have saved someone. Felt the grief hit her like a physical blow. Behind her, she heard someone crying, several someones. The bridge crew was breaking down, their hopes shattered by the empty sky and the world below. "All hands," said over the ship's communication system. Her voice cracked, but she forced herself to continue. "This is the captain. I have difficult news. Earth has been destroyed. We have found no survivors in the Sol system. We appear to be the last humans in existence." She paused, gathering her strength. "I know this is devastating. I feel it too. Everything we fought for, everyone we loved is gone, but we are not gone. 4,000 of us remain. We carry human civilization with us. Our culture, our history, our dreams. They survive because we survive." She ended the announcement and let her crew grieve. There would be time for speeches later. Right now, they needed to feel the loss. Lieutenant Commander Sarah, the ship's counselor, worked through the night. She moved from section to section, talking to crew members, listening to their pain, helping them process the impossible truth. Some people sat in silent shock. Others wept openly. A few expressed rage, screaming at the empty sky, demanding to know who had murdered their world. Found in her quarters, staring out the window at the wounded Earth below. "The crew needs you," he said gently. "I know, I'm trying to find the right words." She turned to face him. "How do you comfort 4,000 people who just lost everything?" You can't, but you can give them something else." Sat down across from her. "You can give them purpose, a reason to keep going." Before could respond, Oracle's voice cut through the room. "Captain, sensors detect incoming vessels. 40 warships, Crimson Empire signatures. They followed us." High Admiral N had gambled. While his rivals searched their archives for information about Earth, he had assigned ships to track the Erebus. When the human warship made its sudden journey, his trackers followed at a distance. Now he knew what the humans knew. And he saw opportunity. His message arrived on the Erebus Bridge within minutes. Human vessel, you have reached a dead world. There is nothing here for you. Surrender your ship and its technology, and we will allow your crew to live as subjects of the Crimson Empire. Refuse, and you will share your world's fate. Read the message 3 times. Around her, the bridge crew had stopped their grieving. They were looking at her now, waiting, needing her to tell them what to do. She thought about everything that had happened. The war, the hibernation, the awakening, the battles against empires that had never heard of humanity, and now this. Standing in the ashes of Earth while an alien admiral threatened to finish what someone else had started 3 centuries ago. Something changed inside her. The grief did not disappear, but it transformed. It became cold and hard and focused. All hands to battle stations, she announced. Oracle, authorize full combat protocol. Remove all weapon limiters. Today we are not fighting to survive. Today we are fighting because they dared to threaten us while we mourn our dead. The Erebus turned toward the Crimson Fleet. Her weapons powered up to levels they had never reached before, drawing on reserves that were meant for desperate last stands. Captain, Oracle said quietly, this course of action carries significant risk. I know, replied, do it anyway. The Erebus accelerated directly toward the enemy fleet. Not away, not around, straight at them like a spear thrown by an angry god. The crimson ship scattered in confusion, unprepared for an enemy that attacked 40-to-1 odds without hesitation. What followed would be remembered as the Battle of Earth's Grave. The human warship tore through the crimson formation, firing in all directions, taking hits that would have destroyed lesser vessels and continuing regardless. She fought with a fury that logic, a rage that transcended tactics. High Admiral N's flagship was the 5th ship to die. He had time to realize his mistake before the Erebus main guns tore his vessel apart. Threatening humans while they stood beside their murdered world had been the last error of his life. The battle ended when the Nova Collective's fleet arrived, drawn by the distress signals. Supreme Commander surveyed the aftermath in stunned silence. 23 Crimson warships destroyed. The Erebus battered, bleeding atmosphere from a dozen wounds, but still alive, still dangerous. Opened a communication channel. Captain, it appears we have much to discuss. Stood on her wounded bridge, surrounded by the bodies of crew members who had given their lives, and considered the offer. The Crimson Fleet was broken. The Nova posed no immediate threat, and somewhere in the universe there might be other humans waiting to be found. Yes, she said finally, I believe we do. The Erebus had brought chaos to 2 empires. Now it was time to build something new from the ashes. 1 year had passed since the Battle of Earth's Grave. The galaxy looked very different now. The Crimson Empire was broken. Losing High Admiral N and a third of their primary battle fleet had shattered the image of invincibility that held the Empire together. Worlds that had suffered under Crimson rule for centuries saw weakness and acted. Rebellions erupted across the territory. The single empire split into 3 successor states, each claiming to be the legitimate government, each too busy fighting the others to threaten anyone else. The Nova Collective had made a smarter choice. Supreme Commander had looked at the wreckage of the Crimson Fleet and decided that peace was better than war. She negotiated with Captain, not as an enemy, but as a potential ally. The humans wanted to be left alone. The Collective was happy to provide that, especially if it meant the Erebus would not turn its guns on them. The agreement was simple. Humanity would establish a neutral station in the dead corridor. Any species could visit for trade, diplomacy, or refuge. The Erebus would guard this station and guarantee its safety. In exchange, both the Nova Collective and the Crimson successor states would leave human space alone. They called it Sanctuary Station. Construction took 6 months. The Erebus manufacturing systems, designed to produce weapons and ammunition, were modified to create building materials instead. Human engineers worked alongside Nova technicians who had been sent as part of the peace agreement. Slowly, a massive structure took shape in the void between empires. Sanctuary Station was not beautiful. It was functional, practical, designed for survival rather than appearance. Docking bays for ships of any size, living quarters for thousands, trading halls, medical facilities, meeting rooms, everything a civilization needed to begin again. Captain stood in the main observation deck and watched ships approach. Crimson refugees fleeing the civil wars, Nova merchants seeking new opportunities, smaller species who had been crushed between the two empires for generations and finally had somewhere safe to go. "You built something remarkable," Supreme Commander said, joining her at the window. The Nova leader had come in person to formally recognize Sanctuary's neutrality. "I did not expect this from a species that lost everything." "We did not lose everything," replied. "We lost our world, but we kept each other. That was enough to start again." Studied the human woman with new respect. "You could have chosen revenge. You had the power to hurt both our empires badly, perhaps badly enough to destroy them. Instead, you chose this. Revenge would not bring Earth back. It would not bring anyone back." Turned to face the alien commander. "My people have a saying. The best revenge is living well. We intend to live very well indeed." Aboard the Erebus, life had changed completely. The warship was still powerful, still deadly when needed, but she had become something more. A home, a seed of new humanity. Children had been born in the past year, the first new humans in 3 centuries. The ship's medical bay had been expanded into a proper hospital. The cargo holds had been converted into schools, parks, gardens. The Erebus was no longer just a weapon. She was a city that happened to carry weapons. Led the engineering teams that made it all possible. His crews worked constantly modifying systems, building new structures, keeping everything running. He had aged visibly in the past year, his hair turning gray and his face gaining new lines, but his eyes still sparkled with the joy of solving problems. "We have enough resources to build 3 more ships," he reported at the weekly command meeting. "Not warships, colony ships, designed for long-term settlement." Nodded. "Begin construction. Oracle has identified 17 potentially habitable worlds within reasonable travel distance, worlds that neither empire has claimed. We can make them ours." Lieutenant Commander Sarah had become the unofficial voice of the civilian population. The crew were no longer just soldiers. They were families, communities, the foundation of a new society. She helped them adjust to their strange new lives, counseled them through grief and hope, and ensured that their needs were heard. "The first colonial expedition has 300 volunteers," she reported. "Good people, farmers, engineers, teachers. They are ready to build something new." The colony ship was named Odyssey. She was smaller than the Erebus, designed for settlement rather than combat, but she carried the same spirit. Her captain was a young officer named David, born on the Erebus during the first months after awakening. He had never seen Earth, but he had grown up on stories of green hills and blue skies and crowded cities full of life. "Find us a new home," told him before departure, "and come back to tell us about it." The Odyssey left Sanctuary Station on a clear day, if days could be called clear in space. Half the human population gathered to watch her go, waving at screens and shouting encouragement that could not cross the void. The ship accelerated away, growing smaller and smaller until she disappeared into the stars. Watched until there was nothing left to see, then she returned to her duties. The galaxy was not peaceful. The Crimson successor states still fought each other. Pirates and raiders prowled the edges of civilized space. Old enemies nursed old grudges and new conflicts sparked every day. But in the dead corridor there was calm. There was hope. There was humanity, small but growing, determined to survive. Then Oracle detected something strange. "Captain," the AI said one evening as prepared for sleep, "I have found an anomaly in the deep-range scans, a signal, very faint, from beyond the borders of known space." "Sat up, what kind of signal?" "Artificial, definitely technological, and it matches human communication patterns from before the fall of Earth." The words hit her like lightning. Human patterns. Someone was out there broadcasting with human technology. Another survivor, another ship, maybe an entire colony that had escaped the destruction. "Can you track it?" "Yes. The source is approximately 18 months away at maximum speed. I cannot determine more without getting closer." Stood and walked to her window. Outside, Sanctuary Station glowed with lights. Ships moved through the docking bays. People lived their lives, unaware of what she had just learned. For a year she had focused on building, on creating something new from the ashes of Earth. She had told herself that the Erebus crew were the last humans, and she had accepted that weight. Now, suddenly, there might be others. Family, more of her people, lost and alone somewhere in the void. "Begin preparing for a long-range expedition," she ordered. "Select a crew. We leave as soon as the Erebus is ready." "And Sanctuary Station?" Considered the question. The station needed protection. The peace was fragile. If she left, everything they had built might fall apart. But she could not ignore the signal. She could not leave other humans stranded when she had the power to reach them. "We will split our forces. Half the crew stays to protect the station. Half comes with us. This is too important to ignore." 2 months later, the Erebus departed on her longest journey yet. Behind her, Sanctuary Station continued to grow, a beacon of hope in a galaxy of conflict. Ahead of her, the unknown waited, full of mystery and danger and the possibility of reunion. Captain stood on her bridge as the stars stretched into lines around her ship. The Erebus had brought chaos to two empires. She had proven that humanity could not be easily destroyed. Now she would prove something more. Humanity was not just survivors. They were searchers, builders, dreamers. They had lost their home but not their spirit. And somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, others were waiting to be found. "Let's go bring our family home," said softly. The Erebus flew on, carrying 4,000 hopes into the unknown future. Whatever waited at the end of the signal, humanity would face it together. The story of the human warship was far from over. It was only beginning.